You know you don't want to check his phone again. You know you don't want to ask the same question for the fifth time. You know you don't want one weird look, one late text, or one bad answer to ruin the entire night. But then something happens. His phone pings. He's later than you expected. He seems distracted. He says something in a way that doesn't feel right. And suddenly you need something from him. An answer, a better answer, reassurance, his phone, an explanation. You need him to understand why you're upset. And if he doesn't respond the right way, now you're even more upset. Because from where you're sitting, the problem feels pretty obvious. If he hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel like this. If he would just answer me, I could calm down. If he would reassure me better, I could let it go. If he were doing enough, I wouldn't keep reacting this way. And after infidelity, that makes complete sense. He betrayed you. Of course your attention went to him. But there is something happening in these moments that you may not even realize is happening yet. And until you can begin seeing it, you'll keep looking to your husband to stop a reaction that has already started moving through you. So today, I'm not going to teach you 10 tools. I'm not going to tell you to just calm down. And I'm definitely not going to tell you that your husband's behavior doesn't matter. It does. What I want to show you is much simpler. I want to show you the first place I start with women inside Beyond Breath when they feel like, I know I don't want to keep doing this, but I can't seem to stop. And surprisingly, the first step isn't stopping it. It's learning to see what you did after the reaction happened. Because you cannot change a pattern you don't yet recognize as a pattern. I'm Sarai Bastian. I'm a yoga therapist and neurosomatic intelligence practitioner. I spent 7 years working alongside Dr. Kevin Skinner at Auto Recovery, and I've helped more than 2,000 women through Beyond Breath. And one of the biggest things I see after betrayal is that women become incredibly good at studying their husband, while having almost no idea what is happening inside themselves in the moments they get triggered. Let's say his phone pings while you're sitting beside him. Immediately, your attention goes to him. Who was that? Why did he look at it like that? Why did he put it down so quickly? Is he acting weird? Does that mean something? And now you're watching. Maybe you ask him who it was. He tells you, but the answer doesn't settle you. Because even if he's telling you the truth, how do you know? What if there's more? What if he left something out? What if he deleted something before you saw it? What if he's just gotten better at hiding it? So you ask another question, and maybe another. Maybe you want to see the phone. Maybe he shows you the phone and there's nothing there. But even that doesn't necessarily end it. Because now your mind can say, well, of course there's nothing there. He could have deleted it. This is one of the hardest things about betrayal. You may genuinely not know anymore when you're seeing something that needs your attention, and when fear is taking what's happening and connecting it to what happened before. So your attention stays fixed on him. What is he doing? What isn't he doing? Is he telling me everything? Is he doing enough recovery work? Is he being transparent enough? Is he reassuring me enough? And underneath all of those questions is an even bigger one. What does he need to do to make me feel better? Maybe he needs to answer differently. Maybe he needs to explain it again. Maybe he needs to show you the phone. Maybe he needs to reassure you or apologize or prove to you that this time is different. And if he does all of that and you still don't feel better, then it can seem like he simply hasn't done enough yet. So you need something else from him. Another answer, another check-in, another conversation, another piece of proof. Or maybe you don't ask at all. You go quiet instead. You pull away. He asks what's wrong. You say, nothing. But inside, everything has changed. Or maybe it comes out as anger. Why can't you just understand what this does to me? Why do I have to keep explaining this? Why can't you just make me feel like I can trust you? And from your perspective, you are responding to him. He betrayed you. Something he did today triggered that reaction. So naturally, your attention stays on what he needs to do next. He needs to explain. He needs to reassure. He needs to prove. He needs to fix the moment. And sometimes there absolutely is something happening that needs to be addressed. But here's the problem. When you've been blindsided before, you may not be able to tell the difference. Even the truth can feel suspicious. Even reassurance can feel incomplete. Even a clean phone can leave you wondering what you didn't find. Which means every uncomfortable feeling can send you back to the same question. What does he need to do so I can finally feel okay? And if you don't recognize that there's also a pattern happening inside you, the only place you know to look is outward, at him. And this is where it starts costing you more than the moment itself. Because you want your marriage back. You want to trust your husband again. You want to feel close. You want him to reach for you and not have your mind immediately ask whether you should trust the affection. You want to have sex without thinking about her. You want to have a good night and let it stay good. You want to stop feeling like one weird moment can erase 3 weeks of progress. But if every uncomfortable feeling immediately becomes, what does he need to do to make this stop? Then your entire marriage starts getting organized around the reaction. More questions, more reassurance, more checking, more monitoring, more conversations about the betrayal, more watching to see if he's doing enough. And the hardest part is you may not even realize that you're doing it. To you, each individual moment makes sense. Of course I asked. Of course I checked. Of course I got angry. Of course I pulled away. Look at what happened to me. And that is exactly why this first step matters. Maybe you've already been told what to do when you're triggered. Take a breath, ground yourself, go for a walk, put your face in a bowl of ice water, distract yourself, journal. And some of those things may help reduce the intensity of a moment. There's nothing wrong with that. Therapy may also have helped you understand why betrayal affected you so deeply. You may understand that you are hypervigilant. You may understand that you are afraid of being blindsided again. You may understand why trust feels difficult. But there's a difference between understanding betrayal and recognizing the exact pattern you are participating in when a trigger actually happens. Because if I ask you what happened last night, you might say, he got defensive. He didn't answer me correctly. He was late. He was acting weird. He didn't reassure me. You can tell me everything he did. But if I ask, what did you do? That may be a completely different question. And that is where I want to start. Inside Beyond Breath, I teach a larger process that I call the trauma highway. There's a whole sequence that happens between the moment your system reacts and the thing you eventually do. But I don't expect you to recognize the entire sequence at first. In fact, that would be asking too much. We start at the easiest place to see, the end. I call that the output. The output is simply, what did you do? Did you check? Did you ask the same question again? Did you get angry? Did you pull away? Did you start monitoring him? Did you spend the next hour replaying everything? Did you need reassurance? Did you try to control something so you could finally feel okay? That's the output. And here's what usually happens when I ask a woman to notice it. She says, yeah, but I only did that because he, and there it is. Her attention goes right back to him. So I'll say, maybe he did something that needs to be addressed. We can talk about that too. But for just a moment, can you see what you did? Not whether it was justified, not whether he started it, not whether you had a right to be upset. Just what was my output? That is the first step. And this is where women tend to think they're doing it wrong because maybe the entire night already happened. You already checked, you already asked, you already got angry, you already pulled away, and then 3 hours later you realize, oh, I did it again. And you think, well, what good does that do me now? A lot. Because before you can stop a pattern, you have to recognize that there is a pattern. At first, you may only see it afterward. That's normal. You're not supposed to magically catch yourself the second the reaction begins. This is what I mean when I say that inside Beyond Breath, we have to back into our healing. But backing in does not mean that tomorrow you need to understand every thought, every body sensation, every trigger, and everything that happened in between. Not yet. Today, I just want you to see the end. You checked, you asked for reassurance, you got angry, you controlled, you monitored, you pulled away, and you noticed it. That is different from not seeing it at all. Because once you can see the thing you keep doing, then over time we can start asking what happened before it. But first, you have to be able to see it. So here's the only thing I want you to practice after watching this video. The next time you realize you've been triggered and the moment is already over, don't start by asking, what did he do wrong? You will already know his part. Instead, ask, what was my output? That's it. Maybe your answer is, I checked his phone. I asked him 4 versions of the same question. I spent an hour trying to get him to reassure me. I got angry. I went cold. I pulled away when he tried to hug me. I watched him all evening. I started searching for evidence. And your brain is probably going to immediately say, yes, but I did that because he, You don't have to fight with that thought. You don't have to decide whether you are right or wrong. Just come back to it. What did I do? And if you can name it, you did the exercise. You're not trying to change it yet. You're not trying to catch it sooner yet. You are learning to see it. Because right now you may believe the path to feeling better looks like this. He changes, then I can relax. He reassures me correctly, then I can stop asking. He proves enough, then I can stop checking. He never gets it wrong, then I can finally trust. And of course, your husband has a role in rebuilding the marriage. But if your ability to feel okay depends entirely on him perfectly managing every uncomfortable reaction inside you, you will stay stuck waiting. Because another person cannot control every feeling that moves through your body. And they cannot guarantee that you will never feel afraid again. The shift is not his behavior doesn't matter. The shift is his behavior matters. And I can also begin noticing what happens to me and what I do next. That's the beginning of getting some of your own power back. And this first step may sound almost too small. What did I do? But think about it. What becomes possible when you can finally see the pattern? Eventually, checking doesn't have to be the automatic next move. Reassurance doesn't have to become the only way the night can continue. Anger doesn't have to be the only way you express the hurt underneath it. Pulling away doesn't have to be the only way you protect yourself when closeness feels vulnerable. You start becoming able to experience something uncomfortable without immediately handing your husband the job of making the discomfort disappear. And that matters because you didn't stay in your marriage so you can spend the rest of it monitoring him. You stayed because you want the possibility of loving him, trusting him, being close to him, having intimacy, laughing, going on trips, having ordinary good days, actually enjoying being married to him again. And you cannot fully participate in that marriage if every uncomfortable moment automatically pulls you back into the betrayal. I've worked with women who spent years trying to understand what was wrong. Therapy, books, workshops, podcasts, recovery work. One woman inside Beyond Breath, Becky, had spent about 10 years trying different forms of support before she came into this work. She wasn't someone who hadn't tried. She had tried a lot. Later, she described Beyond Breath as the missing piece. She talked about working through triggers dramatically faster. But what matters most is what changed in her actual life. She talked about deeply enjoying her husband again, about feeling connected to him in a way she compared to their honeymoon phase. That is the goal. Not becoming a woman who never feels uncomfortable, not becoming a woman who pretends everything is fine. Becoming a woman who can recognize what is happening inside herself, so the betrayal does not keep deciding what happens next in her marriage. So if you're watching this thinking, I know I don't want to keep checking, I know I don't want to keep asking, I know I don't want every trigger to turn into another fight, but I still can't seem to stop. I don't want you to start by trying harder. Start by seeing it. After the moment is over, ask, what was my output? And if the only thing you could say is, I noticed afterward, that counts. That is where we begin. From there, we can start backing into the rest of the pattern and eventually create more space between what triggers you and what you do next. That's the first part of the betrayal reset. And it is what eventually allows you to rebuild trust. Receive your husband's efforts when it is real. Stay present for affection and intimacy, and start building the loving, connected marriage you actually stay for. If you want to understand the full 3-step process I use inside Beyond Breath, I teach it in my free Betrayal Reset Masterclass. The link is below this video. But for today, don't try to fix the whole reaction. Just start noticing the end of it. What did I do? Because once you can see the road you keep taking, you can finally begin learning how to take a different one.